Carolyn Glick is the senior contributing editor at the Jewish News Service, JNS, host of her own podcast, The Carolyn Glick Show. Dear friend of mine and my family, smart as hell, really has her finger on the pulse of our country and Israel. And before I bring her on, just to set the stage here, there's a big piece in the Daily Mail, and this is a big deal. This is how these radical international organizations work. The British chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court has been accused of misconduct and harassment involving a female colleague, the Daily Mail reports. Karim Khan, a barrister tasked with bringing war criminals to justice, triggered outrage in May when he issued arrest warrants to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Gallant. The shock move was condemned by the United States, who was condemned at the time by the Prime Minister of the UK. But they write, our investigation can reveal that in the fortnight before his bombshell announcement, Mr. Khan faced internal scrutiny at the International Criminal Court. Sources claim a female official at the court made claims about his conduct to a colleague who in turn informed senior managers. Carolyn Glick, these were sexual harassment allegations that were taking place. Tell us about this, and tell the nation of America why it's important.
So thanks so much for having me on your program. It's always great to be on with you, Mark. So, yes, on May 3rd, an employee at the International Criminal Court told the chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, that one of his employees was accusing him of sexual harassment. And he was very worried about it. There's an account on X called ICC_leaks, and they have a lot more information beyond what the Daily Mirror report said. And what you see in those leaks is that he was terrified. He said, oh no, this is going to destroy my career if this gets out. And his brother, by the way, Imran Khan, a former member of parliament from the Tories, just got out of jail after serving half of his sentence of 18 months for child molestation, for molesting a 15-year-old boy recently. And here's the brother, Karim, who thinks he's going to be the UN Secretary General one day, says, wait a minute, my career is about to be destroyed. Then, as it said in the Daily Mirror, about 2 weeks later, he shocked everybody by announcing that he wasn't going to carry out an investigation. He was just going to issue these arrest warrants against Netanyahu and Gallant.
Let me slow down just a minute, just to catch up the American people. He had announced that, look, Israel's a democracy. It has a real Supreme Court, as pathetic as it is. But nonetheless, so I'm going to come to Israel. I'm going to do a site visit. This is what I kind of do before I do anything. And you're saying he suddenly cut that short and then issues these arrest warrants against Netanyahu, right, and Gallant.
He didn't cut it short. He never came here. He was supposed to arrive in Israel to carry out some investigation or fact-finding mission, even though he doesn't have any jurisdiction because Israel isn't even a member of the International Criminal Court. But put that aside. He was supposed to come here. He had been talking to U.S. senators saying, yes, I'm going to check. It's a problem because Israel does have an independent prosecution and an independent judiciary. So under the rules, basically, I'm not supposed to be the first court to look at anything. Israel is, because it has an independent court system. But, I'll go there and I'll see. So he was supposed to arrive here on May 20th. And then instead, he suddenly announced that he was canceling his trip. And later the same day that he was supposed to come to Israel, he announced that he was issuing these arrest warrants for war crimes against Prime Minister Netanyahu and Defense Minister Gallant, and of course 3 senior Hamas terrorists who in the meantime have all been eliminated, but to try to put together some sort of a moral equivalence between these mass murdering terrorists in Hamas and the democratically elected Prime Minister of Israel and the Defense Minister. So he puts out this information after he suspended a non-existent investigation. He just canceled it with no prior warning, and he had acknowledged to these U.S. senators that he had a really problematic case against them and that he was going to have to really think about it. So what happened? That he suddenly decided that, oh, I better go after Netanyahu, the bête noire of all of the who's who in polite progressive society in the UN and in the West.
And I would take it a step further as I've been studying this, and you did an excellent job, by the way, and which is this. So they were going to investigate him, the International Criminal Court. They have a HR department and all the rest of it. They have a very bad environment, according to what I've read, of sexual harassment there. But all of a sudden, they killed the investigation. After he brought these charges against Netanyahu and Gallant, the investigation of him died. That is, they never pursued it. The woman, they said, well, on the one hand, she doesn't actually, can't confirm it happened. She won't come forward, but she did come forward. So my question to you is this. Was this some kind of quid pro quo? Because it sure as hell smells like it to me.
No, I think it reeks of it. I think it reeks of it because she did come forward. She came forward twice, and in fact, there's an add-on report on that ICC leaks X report that said that she filed a complaint with the governing organization of the ICC because she saw that the HR department, such as it is, at the ICC was not going to be looking into it. And so 5 months have passed, and indeed they didn't investigate anything related to her charges. And by the way, before she came forward and said that he had sexually harassed her both physically and psychologically, she heard from a number of other members of the ICC and a number of other employees that they too had been sexually harassed by Khan. So this is something that goes around there. And from my sources, I found out that actually when Khan was told initially on May 3rd that this woman had come forward, his initial response when he found out that somebody in his employ was accusing him of sexual harassment, he asked whether it was a male or a female. And then he asked whether there was any videotape. I mean, for this guy, his brother just got out of jail. This is not, what you might consider to be the model of a married father of two, which is what he is.
So let me do Mark Levin, Philadelphia speak. We're here with our dear friend Carolyn Glick, senior contributing editor at JNS, dear friend, and one of the really important people in the media in Israel and in the United States. So we have this sleazeball prosecutor who's harassing this woman. And he's scared to death that it'll become public because he wants to be UN secretary like the other sleazeball currently is UN secretary. And he's concerned, and then he wants to know, well, does it just involve her or other women and guys? And is there any video? Oh, this guy's top shelf. And then, as Carolyn explains to us, he was supposed to have a short trip to Israel, go through the motions, Israel democracy, they actually have an independent judiciary, they have a legal system, unlike every country that surrounds it. Because, you go through that process, as Carolyn pointed out, because the first resort is to the legal system within a democracy. So what does he do? Well, he cuts the throat from that. And then he just goes out and he issues basically criminal warrants against the elected prime minister of Israel, against the defense secretary, who are defending their country. And then suddenly, these allegations disappear. Suddenly, HR and the International Criminal Court take a pillow and smother the whole damn thing. And so I smell a quid pro quo. Carolyn smells a quid pro quo. So my question to you is, shouldn't there be some kind of stay of what's taking place here, an actual investigation of what happened here into this prosecutor, into the International Criminal Court, and the whole damn thing?
Of course there should be. Of course there should be. And instead, this week, and the other thing is that he makes this announcement on May 20th that he's issuing these international arrest warrants against the prime minister and the defense minister, but he doesn't even have the power to do that because those arrest warrants can only be issued by a 3-judge panel. Not that I hold much stock in the ICC judges, but all the same, he's not the one that issues the subpoenas under his own procedure. Mm-hmm. It's the judges of the ICC, and they're supposed to meet this week to issue the arrest warrants against Prime Minister Netanyahu. And I mean, it just, so everything that he did was against standard procedure in actual criminal law, but also against the ICC's own procedures. And he did it, and as a result, as you see, or at the same time, miraculously, that this happened, nobody heard about the charges. And then, he's been saying all along that, he's being hounded, he's being hunted, he's being prosecuted, he's being persecuted by unnamed sources, which The Guardian attributes to being the Mossad and Israel, that Israel is behind all of these allegations. But here's the thing, can you imagine if Israel had known that this was all going on, that we would have kept it a secret? I mean, this guy is so compromised, and here he is making daring to cast these kinds of allegations against the leadership of this country that's fighting in a war for its national survival against enemies that literally want to carry out October 7th against every single Jew in Israel and around the world. And, why wouldn't we make these allegations public if we knew? And the fact that they've been hidden for 5 months until they finally came out in this Daily Mirror story, apparently because this woman and her associates at the ICC are so fed up with the lack of due process, with the lack of justice for his victim. He's blaming Israel for it because, again, how do you get out from under all of these allegations in the vaunted world of fancy-pants anti-Semites that he runs in? It's by blaming the Jews. And what better Jew to blame than the most hated Jew on the face of the planet, Prime Minister Netanyahu, who keeps standing up to all of these people and insisting on defending the country.
This guy's a British lawyer. It's a British newspaper. And, of course, Mossad did it. Now, my attitude about this is there needs to be an investigation. At least the Committee of Congress needs to look into this. They need to look into this, after the election, because nobody's going to do anything before. But it's my understanding that this International Criminal Court, and you know what, that's actually a very good name, because it is, in many respects, itself guilty of criminal conduct, such as here, that they're going to do something in the next 24, 48 hours. Is that when they're going to formally issue these charges?
That's when they're expected to sit down and have a hearing about it. Yes, they're expected to do it this week. And it's also a criminal court because what they're doing towards Israel, against Israel, is criminal. Who ever heard of such a thing? It's so funny. It's like, they issued these arrest warrants or announced that he wants to issue these arrest warrants against Prime Minister Netanyahu, Defense Minister Gallant, and Hamas arch-terrorists Yahya Sinwar, Mohammed Def, and Ismail Haniyeh, who have all been eliminated. They are all mass murderers. So it's basically like saying, okay, well, we're gonna issue arrest warrants against FDR and General Eisenhower. Oh, and also against Hitler and Goering and Goebbels. Well, they all died in their Nazi bunker under Berlin, so we're just going to go after Ike and FDR now. That's basically where they are today, right? It was all a joke anyway. They never meant to go after any of these Hamasniks. They only said that they were going to do it so that they could pretend that there was some sort of a fairness, which of course is a perversion of justice, and it is criminal. Just as they're projecting Hamas's crimes on Israel with this fake case, you have this apparent alleged criminal who is the prosecutor himself, and he's getting a get-out-of-jail-free card by going after Israel's leader.
I want to remind Americans that Donald Trump rejected this court, warned this court, if it did anything to us, or for that matter, any of our allies, like the State of Israel, that we would punish this court. And I want to remind you folks in the audience, not so of Biden and Harris and Blinken. Although they condemned it, they didn't lift a finger to stop it, and they could have, because this prosecutor was appointed. This British, really a sex freak. You want to know the truth? Maybe there are videos out there. That's why there ought to be an investigation. Maybe this guy was blackmailed, clearly a quid pro quo. But the point is this. They didn't do a thing to stop this. That is Biden and Blinken and those guys and Harris. Instead, this is what they do. I've got to go. I want to thank you so much.
One short thing.
Yep, go ahead.
Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have blocked the progress of legislation in the Senate. It already passed the House to take Trump's executive order against the ICC that Biden canceled and pass it into law. So they're actively protecting the ICC from Congress by blocking this bill from going forward and getting passed in the Senate after it was already passed in the House of Representatives.
And by no standard of Western civilization is this a legitimate process. The guy issuing his own subpoenas, issuing his own criminal warrants, cutting short any type of investigation and all the rest of it, by no standard. And he's corrupt, and he's got stuff going on in his background. He sounds like a pervert to me, quite frankly. He asked about whether there were guys, also other gals in video. That's a tip-off. There needs to be an investigation of the International Criminal Court and this British prosecutor who also has a slime ball for a brother, as you pointed out, who served time in jail for also sexual misconduct. Thanks so much, and you take care of yourself, my friend. All right. God bless you.